Alright, so we got this new 2022 WRX. It's got a 2.4 liter engine, 271 horsepower. As everyone's saying, 3 horsepower above what it was. Same torque, 258 foot-pounds of torque, or pound-feet of torque. And they're saying a fat power band, and that comes from their new electronic wastegate. So therefore, everyone's always complaining about, oh, it doesn't have enough torque. Well, I mean, the 2 liter did have some good torque, because the torque band on that came on a lot quicker than the STI 2.5, even though the 2.5 was a 2.5. So the reason being, of course, is this low mount turbo, right? So you get that turbo spool up quicker, bada bang, bada boom, you off you go. So, but yeah, the same 258 pound-feet of torque, but a wider power band from the bigger 2.4 liter engine. So I'm sure with that, the electronic wastegate that Subaru is using is to help control that torque band come on up and just go flat all the way across, you know. So don't just look at the numbers, because a wider torque band is a wider torque band. You know, you don't have to wait for the power to kick in. I'm sure with if they're keeping with the same size turbo and with the bigger engine, that's gonna be kind of like how when the WRX 2.5 came out, TD04, right? But you know, in 06 when they came out with the 2.5, TD04, but the turbo came on so much sooner versus the 2002 to 2005 WRX, the EJ20s. You know, you had to wait. So same thing, you know. Horsepower only gained a little bit. I'm sure they did that just so we have a little bit more power to look at. But I mean, yeah, 3 horsepower isn't impressive, but if you look at the power band, what they're saying, the fat power band, I'm sure it's like this versus, you know, so you got a lot more down low, I'm sure. And as everyone knows, we love torque, right? So there we are, a fat power band. So just be aware that, yeah, fat power band versus peaky, you know, because you know, more torque is more power, more get up and go. So they talk about their track tune suspension. So you know, Subaru has done this there, and they have a new strut brace that they put on it that increases more structural rigidity, and then also 28% more torsional stiffness. And so, as you know, GC8s or GCs flex a lot. GDs got stiffer, you know, chassis. GRs got stiffer. Now the new VAs are like hella stiff. So with the more stiffer suspension, stiffer chassis, yeah, that's gonna help it rotate, because you know, Subaru's understeer, right? So all of that should help with the handling feel, turn response, turn in, cornering stability, especially with helping control the suspension geometry, keeping it from getting too crazy, you know. Less flex means less change in the suspension geometry. So alignment stays close to where it should be, you know. Now the next will be transmission. They talk about the new revised transmission gears, you know, right? The new revised gears. And that it's supposed to be better for the power band. So I do wonder, since the RPM is lower, 6,000 RPM redline, that I wonder if they change the actual gear ratios or they change the final drive. Because in the WRX still runs a 411 final drive as of current, so for the 6-speed manual transmissions. So I'd like to see if they are running a different final drive or they actually change all the gear ratios altogether. because the gear ratios still suck in my opinion, because it's like WRX, the gear ratios is like 02, 03 WRX gear ratios 1, 2, 3, 4, but they shorten the final drive to 411. So that's not that much different, you know. And fifth and sixth gear, it's like a split fifth gear, you know. So it's like extra gear for final drive, or for extra gear for overdrive, right? Save gas on the highway. And so I like to actually see what the gear ratios are on these new gears, these optimized gears. So I want to see what the ratios are, because that makes a big difference in how the car accelerates and what gear you are in, especially when you're in turns, corners, when you're at the track or autocross, to see what that does. Because all the autocrosser guys are like, oh, I wish second gear was longer. Well, if you increase your RPM, you get a little bit more second gear, if that. But if they're just on little itty bitty tight courses, meh. But when we run at the track, or bigger courses, keeping the RPMs up because the short gear set makes a big difference. Now their super performance transmission runs that 4.444 final drive now. So I'm like, okay, cool, but nothing new, you know. It could be similar gear ratios as to the new Outback Wilderness. It's got a short final drive too. So it's like, yeah, slap that in, yay, here we go. Perhaps, I don't know, but same engine, right? It's like they took the Outback XT engine, the Wilderness, and put that in the WRX with the 444 final drive. Yay! And change how quickly the computer switched gears. I suppose. I mean, if that's what they're going for, sure. Why not use something you already have? You know. So, okay, cool. You know, Subaru's been using stuff and putting them back and forth from one model to another. So it's like say our 04 STI. We got a JDM Forester STI engine. Same motor, same turbo, same setup, same intercooler. And then Legacy Spec B, 2.0 Spec B gear ratios in a DCCD 6-speed. So they kind of put everything together there because Legos, right? So they put everything together there, sent it to us. Hey, 04 STI, cool. So from what I've been seeing, it's like, yeah, a lot of Legos Super been putting together and just sending it out. Send it. So they all still have, the new WRXs, they still have the torque vectoring. So that essentially, like say you turn right, it breaks the inside wheel in the back. So it kind of drags. So when it drags that wheel, the butt kind of steps up, right? So I do want to see how much that kicks in to get it to rotate. Because you know, the WRXs no longer run limited slip differentials. And even if they did, their viscous limited slip differentials wasn't anything to be, yeah, I got an LSD. It's I call it a vulnerable limited slip differential, VLSD, right? See, that's what I call it. But a better limited slip will be a good clutch type limited slip, a 1.5 weight, and then that will help get the butt to rotate. You know, that's where it's at, in my opinion. But they have that torque vectoring, so I do want to see how much that kicks in, because in the WRX GT model now, they have the drive mode select, okay? They have power, in intelligence, sport, and sports sharp. The suspension also has comfort, normal, and sharp, as well as the steering, normal, or comfort, normal, and sharp, or sport. And then their all-wheel drive has their normal mode and sport mode. So let's go down this list here. So their power mode, intelligent, sport, and sport sharp. So that's their power unit. So how much power you got, right? So from what we've been doing and what we've noticed, intelligent mode, throttle manipulation. Same with sport mode and sport sharp. Sport sharp, you give it 25%, let's say, and it goes 50%. Like, oh my gosh, you're so punchy. So throttle modulation is what we've noticed with these settings, and of course a little bit of wastegate control for boost settings. So it's like, oh, wait, intelligent mode is just light boost. Yeah, no big deal. I mean, if you want to control low boost, you can control low boost with your foot. Light throttle means low boost. Full throttle means full boost, right? Nothing too difficult. So, but that's why the STI S209, they say, if you want to run at the racetrack, it's best to put it in sport mode because you get more throttle modulation. You put it in sport sharp, you go 50%, that's like full throttle, you know. Off you go. Wide open throttle. So for throttle modulation, you keep it in sport. And so I wish they just set it to 1-to-1, you know. That's how it should be. So there's no dead spot. So, but that's what I think. Suspension, comfort, normal, and sport mode. So that's where I'm sure that's where they can adjust the damper settings. So, you know, you can adjust that. I wish you could adjust it front to back. So you can dial in more oversteer, right? But we'll see how that goes. I don't know. I haven't driven one yet, but of course, the damper settings, that does play in how quickly you can transition left to right. And so, in the steering, comfort, normal, and sport mode, I'm sure that has to do with how light it is. Because I've noticed when driving these cars, if you turn fast, the steering gets a lot harder, you know, on the regular Imprezas and Foresters. I noticed that. So it's like light when you're normally driving, but once you get into these turns and turn a little bit quicker, well, I don't know if it's also the lateral G-force that senses it. I noticed it firms up a bit. So that might have to do with the different settings that they might firm up the steering if you put it in sport mode, so there's more direct feel to it. It feels like a hydraulic setup. And then now they're overdrive mode. Again, in the WRX GT, they have normal mode and sport mode. So I want to have sport mode now because it runs the VTD center differential, the variable torque distribution. They said it's a 45-55 torque split. So if they keep it in sport mode, I'm wondering if the clutch packs in that center diff lets go, because then when it doesn't bite, you don't get that 50-50 anymore. It doesn't push or understeer because 50-50, right? Front wants to spin the same as the back. So if they reduce the contact of the clutches, so like say fully off like the DCCD, it's kind of going to be more rear bias, right? And combo that with the torque vectoring, it's probably going to help rotate. But I do want to see how much that torque vectoring kicks in, because I haven't felt it much on the STI. But I don't know if they have it. If they do, there's not much there I can feel because it's still kind of understeers when you push it to the limit. So I do want to see how that works. But it'd be nice to see. If not on that, ditch it, put in a limited slip differential or 1.5 way Cusco, off you go, you know, power oversteer, donuts on demand. That's what I think. But yeah, so those are some of the things that I think, my thoughts, mainly the powertrain aspect of it. The outside, whatever, you know, it is what it is, because the concept cars always look better than the actual production model, right? And so it is what it is, you know. Accept it or take it or leave it, don't matter. So thoughts on the plastic fenders? Yeah, because I'm sure there are gonna be plenty of people who are gonna paint it, you know. Sure, plenty of people are gonna do that, and of course with the aftermarket, I'm sure plenty of people are gonna make, or plenty of companies are gonna make fender flares and all that, you know. And so there should be a huge market for that, as always, you know, since they're making fender flares for everything. So there should be no problem with that, covering that up, if not painting it. Of course, can it handle the Fuji abuse? Well, can it handle Fuji abuse? We'll have to find out. I'm gonna have to get my hand on one. Tuning, that should be no different than the WRX, you know, but more torque, of course. It can probably handle my abuse fine, but then it can't handle itself, like transmission. It's probably gonna die. So all the 6-speed guys, the 6-speed manual guys, save up for that S-Type 6-speed swap, because that's gonna be where it's at. as far as holding power, because like I said, those trans will hold power up to 1,000 horse, run 9.25 miles all day. I mean, you'll break third gear eventually, but at least they can handle that much more, you know. Of course, you got to get your motors built. So, but yeah, those are my thoughts of the new WRX and its power plant and driveline, because that's kind of what Subaru gave us, and that's what we're gonna have to work with. You know, you work with it, not it work with you. If you don't like it, well, there's other models are fine. You know, like a Civic Type R or something like that. You know, that drives nice. So that's all I got for you. Any more questions? You know, post them up, and I'll answer them individually. If not, we'll do another vlog. Take care.